I finally got a laptop back again, which means I can now use my proper camera. Yay! Hi everyone, I'm here today with a book haul and I have repurchased a brand new laptop, and so I can use my proper camera and no longer shall I be using my dodgy iPhone selfie stick. So I'm really excited about this because I hated using my iPhone. I was balancing it on my stomach and it just wasn't going well, and all of my footage was quite shaky and stuff. So now I'm back to my proper camera and my new laptop, and I am very excited, and I'm also excited about the books that I've got as well. I've got some that I bought myself and some that I have been very kindly sent, and so I'm going to go through all of those now. You know the drill, I'm going to show you them and then we'll talk about what they're about, and then I will let you know what they're like once I've read them. So I'll start with the books that I bought myself because they are the ones that are on the top of the pile and they're just the easiest ones to grab. So the ones that I bought myself are, beginning with this one. The Accidental Mother. I picked this up for 10 pence in my local charity shop. I do love my local charity shop, especially 10 pence books, what's not to like. This one's about a woman who, she works in a designer shoe shop and she has given no thought to having any children ever. So her priorities in life are shoes and her cat. She's got a neurotic cat, and she's just got a really happy lifestyle, but then she suddenly finds out that she has managed to inherit 2 children under 6, and she's suddenly thrown into the world of motherhood that she wasn't expecting, hence the title, The Accidental Mother. So I don't know if this is going to be any good. I've never heard of it before. Like I say, it was only 10 pence at the charity shop. I like the cover of it. It's a little bit grubby, I won't lie. It's got some pen on the back and stuff like that, but I mean, 10 pence, so I'm going to give that a read and hopefully it'll be a nice quick summer read. The next book that I picked up in my local charity shop again is this one, and it's called A Mother's Ordeal. This is still in some sort of library wrapping. It's quite shiny, I do need to take that off it. And I'm not going to hold this up for the whole time that I talk about it because it's quite a big book, but this was a 50 pence book. Paperbacks in my local charity shop are 10 pence and hardbacks are 50 pence, just in case you're ever at my local charity shop. So I'll put this down and I'll talk about what it's about. So that one is a non-fiction book, and it's about one woman's fight against the one-child policy that they used to have in China. I think it's been lifted now, and I do think that now in China you can have more than one child. But there was a period in time where in China you were only allowed to have one child. The book focuses on a woman called Qian. Now I'm not sure if I've said that correctly, possibly not, but I think it's Qian. And she grew up in a time where the government were encouraging people to have large families, and then at the end of the 50s there was a famine and a lot of people died, and then they started with a one-child policy, I think. And so she was a nurse and she worked for the campaign of enforcing this one-child policy. So that involved going around trying to stop people having a second child, whether it be late-term abortions or horrible things such as a lethal injection at birth for a second child should the woman carry the fetus to term. And it sounds absolutely horrific. Now it says that she struggled really hard against the things that she had to do, quite rightly so. It sounds absolutely horrific. So eventually she ends up travelling over to America where her husband is working and lives there for a while. During the time she's there she becomes pregnant and writes back to China asking if she's allowed to return with her second child, and they tell her basically to fix the problem. And so she applies for asylum in America but doesn't hear anything back, and the deportation to China process begins. And so it's her fight to be able to keep her second child. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this. I think I'm going to be angry, and also a bit angry that this woman has participated in lethal injections of children and then is doing everything to keep her child. I'm hoping that she realises what she's done, but I mean, I'm going to reserve judgment until I've read the book because it's quite a hot topic for me, obviously infanticide. By hot topic I mean a touchy subject. It's just a horrific idea, and obviously I have just had my own second child, so it means a lot to me. In fact, the second child is currently sleeping on my lap, so yeah, it's just, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it, but I'm going to read it sooner rather than later and I'll let you know. The next book that I read is a little bit more light-hearted, and it's this one. It's called Faking Friends and it's by Jane Fallon. I love Jane Fallon books. I find them to be quite a fun read. I find them to be engaging reads, and I always really enjoy the subjects. It's usually about betrayal, something to do with a husband cheating, and this one sounds like it is no different, and I'm expecting to enjoy this one. It's about a girl called Amy, and she has a best friend called Melissa, and she thinks she knows everything about Melissa, and she also thinks she's going to be getting married to her long distance fiance. But one day she goes to visit her fiance, and she goes into the house and he's not there, but there is signs that another woman has been there. So as she's going through the things that this other woman has left, she starts to notice that the things are quite familiar to her, and she realises that the other woman that her husband has seen is Melissa, her best friend. So she's lost her home, her fiance and her best friend all in 1 week, but instead of getting upset, she decides to get even, and that is the sort of, oh no, oh don't cry. Getting even rather than getting upset seems to be a running theme in Jane Fallon's books, and I am for it. I'm really excited to read this, and again I'm hoping it's going to be a fun summer read. Now the next books I'm going to talk about have been very kindly sent to me, and I'm going to start with this one, which is The Prince of Mirrors. Now how beautiful is this cover? I really love it, and I don't know, it just really gives me that sort of feeling of excitement, like this is a book I really want to read. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I commonly do, and I really like it, so I'm excited to read it. This is about the grandson of Queen Victoria, and he is due to be taking over the throne. He's known to be good-hearted and shy, but by some it's whispered that he is dim-witted, and people are expecting him to fail and not do very well at this whole monarchy business at all. And so he ends up being tutored by a golden boy who everybody expects to succeed. So Gem Stephen becomes his tutor, and is supposed to help him along his way and prepare him for the duties that are about to come his way. However, the two bond very well, and I believe they start a relationship together. It's obviously set in a time where bisexuality or being gay was not acceptable in the slightest, and so I'm interested to see how this plays out. It's set mostly between London and Norfolk between the 1860s and the 1890s, and so obviously it's a very obviously at the height of the stiff upper lip time, and I'm really interested to see how this relationship between the two plays out. And I've been wanting to get more into historical fiction because I used to read a fair bit of it way back when, before I started BookTube, and I haven't really read much of it recently, and so I'm excited to pick this up, and I have some more historical fiction to come as well. The next book that I've very kindly been sent is this one, which is Side by Side by Jenny Walsh. This is a book about the notorious double act Bonnie and Clyde, and it's the second in the series. There is a first one called Becoming Bonnie, which is about how Bonnie becomes a gangster's mole from being a good girl, and I haven't read that one. It is something I'd be interested in reading, but I've got this one to read. It's about Bonnie and Clyde, obviously, and Bonnie is waiting for Clyde to get out of prison, and she realises that when he gets out he is not the man he quite was. So it's the height of the Great Depression, and Bonnie is waiting for Clyde to get out of prison, and she can feel the dreams of their life together slipping away. And when he returns from prison, he's not quite the man that he was when he left. He returns sort of distant and a little bit damaged from being inside. And so she realises that the only way that they're going to get the life together that they want and that they deserve is by turning to crime. And she knows that she's eventually probably going to get caught by the police herself and end up in trouble alongside Clyde, but they embark upon a series of adventures. And so I'm really excited to read this. I don't know a lot about Bonnie and Clyde. You hear the name and you hear them go together, but with it being sort of American history, it's not something that we really know a lot about in the UK. And so I'm going to be going into this with a little bit blind, not really knowing much, and I think I'll get a bit more enjoyment from it that way. So that's Side by Side. Now the next book I'm extremely excited about. This is Keep the Home Fires Burning, and it's set in wartime, and I absolutely love anything set in wartime. I like wartime films, I like wartime books, and if I can get something around that sort of era I will, and so I couldn't wait to try this when it was offered to me. It's about a woman called Frances Barden, who is chair of the Women's Institute in Great Paxton, and she feels it's her role to keep the community going, keep the community spirit up as the war continues. But her factory is shut down and her husband's secret love child turns up at the door, and so she's got all of this to deal with alongside the war and running the institute and just trying to be the figure that she is. And so she finds that she needs a lot of support from her fellow women at the Women's Institute, but luckily she's got some close friends to turn to. But as the war escalates, every woman that she's turned to have got their own sort of battles to get on with, and a plane crashes in the heart of the village and it changes everybody's life forever. and I can't wait to find out what happens in this. And this is on my pile of books to read next after I'm finished with Ultima, that I'm currently 3/4 of the way through, I would say. So I should be starting this one very soon, and I can't wait. Like I say, I love historical fiction and I really love anything to do with wartime. So I'm desperate to read this, and I'll let you know sooner rather than later how I get on with it. The final book that I got is this one, and it's called Deposed, and I'm just going to read to you what this is about because it's easier to read it than try and surmise it, otherwise I think I'll get it wrong. So it says, in a dark cell, a brutally deposed dictator lies crippled, deprived of his power, his freedom and his eyes. His only companion is the boy who brings him food. 10 years later, the new ruler's son watches uneasily over his father's empire as a wealthy senator arrives with his young and angry ward. The senator is witty but inscrutable, generous with his time and money to a leader in a desperate need of a friend, and he wears a bandage over his blinded eyes. His name is Nero, but this isn't his story. And I've not read anything from the sort of the Roman era in historical fiction, and so I'm intrigued. I remember studying the Romans at school and I really loved it, and I've been to a few Roman heritage sites on my own, sort of own accord. And I watched the TV show Rome a lot of years ago when that was out, and that is about as far as my knowledge of the Romans goes, even though I really feel like I should know a bit more about it. And so I'm very interested to sort of delve into that sort of era and sort of experience that sort of feel, because when I read I get very immersed in the book that I'm reading and the time and the place and everything. And so I'm very excited to add this to my historical fiction pile. Looks like I'm going to have quite a historical sort of summer this year. That's all the books I've got to talk about today, and I would love to know if you've read any of them yourself, or if you're going to be reading any of them, or if there's any of them that I shouldn't read because you've already read them and you know they're absolutely shocking. So let me know, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.